We are on the air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is R5 Productions on the air. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Juan Caceres, and tonight we welcome your favorite R5 production stars, LaPortia Rogers, Naima Lunsford, Nolan Marr, John Newman, and Larry Kravitz. And now we bring you F. Scott Fitzgerald's jazz age tale, The Great Gatsby. Remember the Charleston and all the wild and carefree dance crazes that made the jazz-mad 20s roar? When fortunes were made overnight and young America went joyriding on homemade hooch? Prohibition brought with it new ways to make big money. Speakeasies, bootleggers, and rum runners. And out of the 20s came Jay Gatsby, who built an empire out of a dream in his heart. One of the people who knew Gatsby best was the young man who lived next door to him. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Nick Carraway.
In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice.
Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you have had.
In consequence, I am inclined to reserve all judgments as a matter of infinite hope. When I came back from the East Coast last autumn, I wanted no more riotous excursions with privileged glimpses into the human heart. Only Gatsby was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have unaffected scorn. There was something gorgeous about him, an extraordinary gift for hope as I have never found in any other person. Gatsby turned out all right in the end. It is what preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust floated in the wake of his dreams that temporarily closed out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men. My family has been well-to-do for 3 generations. I graduated from Yale and then participated in the Great War. I decided to go east and learn the bond business. It was a matter of chance that I should have rented a house in one of the strangest communities in North America. 20 miles from New York City, there are 2 unusual formations of land. A pair of what looked like enormous eggs that jut out into Long Island Sound and are separated by a bay. I lived in West Egg. My house was squeezed between 2 huge places that rented for $15,000 a season. The one on my right was a colossal affair with a tower, a marble swimming pool, and more than 40 acres of lawn and garden. It was Gatsby's mansion. The story of the summer began the evening I went across the bay to the more fashionable East Egg. I was invited to have dinner with the Buchanans, Daisy, my second cousin, and her husband, Tom, whom I knew in college. He was one of those men who reached such excellence at 21 that everything afterwards savors of anticlimax. His family was enormously wealthy, and he'd left Chicago and come east in a fashion that rather took your breath away. When I arrived at their mansion, Tom rode up on his huge lawn on one of his polo ponies.
Nick!
Hello, Tom. You've got a nice place here.
It belonged to an oil tycoon. Let's go inside.
A breeze blew through the room. There was an enormous couch on which sat Daisy and another young woman, both in white.
I'm paralyzed with happiness.
Hello, Daisy. Everyone in Chicago sends their love.
Do they miss me?
The whole town is desolate. All the cars have the left rear wheel painted black as a mourning wreath.
Oh, how gorgeous. Let's go back, Tom, tomorrow. You ought to see the baby. She's 2 years old. Haven't you ever seen her?
Never.
What are you doing, Nick?
I'm a bondman with Probity Trust.
Never heard of him.
I'm stiff. I've been lying on that sofa for as long as I can remember.
Don't look at me. I've been trying to get you to New York all afternoon.
Nick, this is Jordan Baker. Have a drink, Jordan.
No, thanks. I'm in training. You live in West Egg, Nick. So you must know Gatsby.
Gatsby? What Gatsby?
Dinner is served.
We were led out onto the porch where 4 candles flickered on the table.
Why? Candles. In 2 weeks, it'll be the longest day in the year.
Telephone for you, Mr. Buchanan.
Thank you. Excuse me.
I love to see you at my table, Nick. You remind me of an absolute rose. Excuse me.
This Mr. Gatsby you spoke of is my neighbor.
Don't talk. I want to hear what happens.
Is something happening?
You mean to say you don't know? Tom's got some woman in New York. She might have the decency not to telephone him at dinner time. They're back.
There's a bird on the lawn that I think must be a nightingale. He's singing away. Isn't it romantic, Tom?
Very romantic.
After dinner, I followed Daisy to the porch. We sat down on a wicker settee.
We don't know each other very well, Nick. Even if we are cousins, you didn't come to my wedding.
I wasn't back from the war.
Well, I've had a very bad time, Nick, and I'm pretty cynical about everything.
Well, you have your daughter. I suppose she talks and eats and everything.
Oh, yes. Listen, Nick, let me tell you what I said when she was less than an hour old and Tom was God knows where. I woke up with an utterly abandoned feeling and asked the nurse if it was a boy or a girl. She told me it was a girl. I said, I'm glad it's a girl and I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world. A beautiful little fool. I've been everywhere and seen everything. God, I'm sophisticated.
Daisy and I went back inside and joined Tom and Miss Baker.
10 o'clock. Time for this good girl to go to bed.
Jordan's going to play in the tournament tomorrow at Westchester.
Oh, you're Jordan Baker, the golfer.
That's right. Good night, Mr. Carraway. See you again.
Of course you will. In fact, I think I'll arrange a marriage. I'll fling you two together. You know, lock you up accidentally in linen closets and push you out to sea in the boat.
Good night. I haven't heard a word.
She's a nice girl.
She's going to spend lots of weekends out here this summer, Nick.
Is she from New York?
From Louisville. Our girlhood was passed together there.
At the end of the evening, I got up to go home.
Wait! I forgot to ask you something, and it's important. We heard you were engaged to a girl out west.
It's libel. I'm too poor.
But we heard it from 3 people, so it must be true.
I knew what they were referring to, but I wasn't even vaguely engaged and had no intention of being rumored into marriage. When I got home, I saw a figure standing on Gatsby's lawn with his hands in his pockets. He stretched out his arms in a curious way toward the dark water and a single green light that might have been the end of a dock. When I looked once more, he had vanished. Halfway between West Egg and Manhattan is a valley of ashes, a desolate industrial dumping ground. Above this gray land is a billboard prominently displaying the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, blue and gigantic behind a pair of enormous yellow spectacles which some oculist set there to fatten his practice. These eyes seem to keep a watch on everything. Passengers on waiting trains can stare at the dismal scene too, for there is always a halt there of at least a minute. And that's how I first met Tom Buchanan's mistress. I went up to New York on the train with Tom one afternoon, and when we stopped by the ash heaps, he jumped to his feet and literally forced me from the train.
We're getting off. I want you to meet my girl.
I followed Tom to a garage. Repairs. George R. Wilson. Cars bought and sold.
Hello, Wilson, old man. How's business?
I can't complain. When are you going to sell me that car?
Next week. I've got my man working on it now.
Get some chairs, why don't you? So somebody can sit down.
Oh, sure, Myrtle.
I want to see you, Myrtle. Get on the next train. I'll meet you by the newsstand on the lower level.
All right.
We left and waited for her at the station.
Terrible place, isn't it? It does her good to get away.
Doesn't her husband object?
He thinks she's going to see her sister in New York. He's so dumb he doesn't know he's alive.
So, Tom Buchanan and his girl and I went up together to New York, or not quite together, as Mrs. Wilson sat discreetly in another car.
Pennsylvania Station, New York.
Tom helped Mrs. Wilson to the platform. Upstairs, she let 4 taxicabs drive away before she selected a new one. And in this, we drove up Fifth Avenue to an apartment building at 158th Street. I have to leave you here.
No, you don't. Myrtle will be hurt if you don't come up to the apartment. Won't you, Myrtle?
Oh, come on, Nick. I'll telephone my sister Catherine. She's said to be very beautiful by people who ought to know.
The apartment was on the top floor. Mrs. Wilson's sister arrived, and we sat on a sofa too large for the room as Tom and Mrs. Wilson occupied the bedroom.
I was at a party on Long Island about a month ago at a man named Gatsby's. Do you know him?
I live next door to him.
Well, they say he's a cousin of Kaiser Williams. That's where all his money comes from. I'm scared of him. Neither Myrtle or Tom can stand the person they're married to. It's his wife that's keeping them apart. She doesn't believe in divorce.
Who wants a drink?
Yes, please.
Nick, did Tom tell you the story of how we met?
No, he didn't.
It was on the train. I was going up to New York to see Catherine and spend the night. I couldn't keep my eyes off of him, but every time he looked at me, I pretended to be looking at the advertisement over his head. When we came into the station, he was next to me and his white shirt front pressed against my arm. And so I told him I'd have to call a policeman, but he knew I lied. I was so excited that when I got into a taxi with him, you can't live forever. You can't live forever.
You can't. None of us can. Have another drink, Nick.
I've been living over that garage for 11 years, and I want you for myself, Tom. But no, there's Daisy.
Don't say her name, Myrtle.
Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. Huh, I'll say it whenever I want to. Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. Oh!
A short, deft movement, Tom broke Myrtle's nose with his open hand. Then there were bloody towels and Myrtle wailing in pain. I kept drinking, and next thing I knew, I was lying half asleep in the lower level of Pennsylvania Station, staring at the Morning Tribune and waiting for the train back home. There was music from my neighbor's house through the summer nights. Caterers would come with several hundred feet of canvas, buffet tables, and enough colored lights to make a Christmas tree of Gatsby's enormous garden. By 7 o'clock, the orchestra has arrived. The bar is in full swing, and floating rounds of cocktails permeate the garden. The first night I went to Gatsby's house, I was one of the few guests who had actually been invited. A chauffeur crossed my lawn early that Saturday morning with a note from his employer. The honor would be entirely Gatsby's if I would attend his little party that night. I wandered around, rather ill at ease among swirls of people I didn't know. I slunk off in the direction of the cocktail table on my way to get roaring drunk when Jordan Baker came out of the house.
I thought you might be here. I remembered you lived next door.
Do you come to these parties often?
Like to come?
When I was here last, I tore my gown on a chair and he asked me my name and address. Inside of a week, I got a package with a new evening gown in it. It was blue with lavender bees, $265.
There's something funny about a fellow that'll do a thing like that. He doesn't want any trouble with anybody.
Who doesn't?
Gatsby. Somebody told me that they thought he killed a man once.
I don't think it's so much that. It's more that he was a German spy during the war. I heard that from a man who knew all about him. Grew up with him in Germany.
Oh, this is much too polite for me. Let's find the host.
We walked into a Gothic library paneled with carved English oak. A stout, middle-aged man with owl-eyed spectacles was sitting somewhat drunk on the edge of a great table.
What do you think about these books? They're absolutely real pages and everything. Who brought you? I was brought by a woman named Roosevelt. I met her somewhere last night. I've been drunk for about a week now. I thought it might sober me up to sit in the library.
We went back outdoors. There was dancing in the garden. By midnight, the hilarity had increased. I was still with Jordan. We were sitting at a table with a man of about my age. At a lull in the entertainment, he looked at me and smiled.
Your face is familiar. Weren't you in the 3rd Division during the war?
Why, yes. I was in the 9th Machine Gun Battalion.
Oh, I was in the 7th Infantry until June 1918. I knew I'd seen you somewhere before.
It was on the tip of my tongue to ask his name when Jordan looked around and smiled.
Having a gay time now?
Much better. This is an unusual party for me. I haven't even seen the host. I live next door, and this man, Gatsby, sent over his chauffeur with an invitation.
I'm Gatsby.
Oh. I beg your pardon.
Oh, I thought you knew, old sport. I'm afraid I'm not very much of a good host.
He smiled, one of those rare smiles that you may come across only a few times in life.
Chicago wants you on the phone, sir.
All right. Tell him I'll be right there. If you want anything, just ask for it, old sport. Excuse me. I will rejoin you later.
Who is he?
He's just a man named Gatsby.
Where is he from? What does he do?
Well, he told me once he was an Oxford man, but I don't think he went there. Anyway, he gives large parties, and I like large parties. They're so intimate. At small parties, there isn't any privacy.
Miss Baker, I beg your pardon, but Mr. Gatsby would like to see you alone.
She followed the butler toward the house. I waited in the hall, and a few minutes later, the door of the library opened, and Jordan and Gatsby came out together. Several people approached him to say goodbye.
We've just heard the most amazing thing, but I swore I wouldn't tell it, and here I am, tantalizing you.
She hurried off, and I joined Gatsby. I apologized for not having known him in the garden.
Oh, don't mention it. Don't give it another thought.
Philadelphia wants you on the phone, sir.
All right, in a minute. Good night, old sport.
Good night. One morning, late in July, Gatsby's gorgeous car lurched up the rocky drive to my door.
Good morning, old sport. You're having lunch with me today. I thought we'd ride up to New York together. It's a pretty car, isn't it?
I'd seen it. Everybody had seen it. It was a rich yellow, swollen in its monstrous length, and terraced with a labyrinth of windshields that mirrored a dozen suns. Sitting down in a sort of green leather conservatory, we started to town.
Look here, old sport. I'm going to tell you something about my life. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea from all these stories you hear. I'm the son of some wealthy people in the Middle West. I was brought up in America, but educated at Oxford because it is a family tradition.
What part of the Middle West?
San Francisco.
I see.
Now, my family all died, and I came into a good deal of money. So after that, I lived like a young Rajah in all the capitals of Europe, collecting jewels and hunting big game, painting a little, and trying to forget something very sad that had happened to me. And then came the war, and I accepted a commission as first lieutenant. I was promoted to major, and every allied government gave me a decoration, even Montenegro down on the Adriatic Sea.
He reached in his pocket, and a medal on a ribbon fell into my palm. To my astonishment, the thing had an authentic look. Major J. Gatsby for valor extraordinary?
Here's a souvenir of my Oxford days.
It was a photograph of half a dozen young men in blazers. There was Gatsby, looking a little younger, with a cricket bat in his hand. Then it was all true.
Now, I'm going to make a big request of you. You'll hear about it this afternoon.
At lunch?
No, later. I happened to find out that you're taking Miss Baker to tea, and she's kindly consented to speak to you about this matter.
I hadn't the faintest idea what this matter was. We passed through the Valley of Ashes, and I had a glimpse of Myrtle Wilson at the garage pump. Then I heard the jug spat of a motorcycle, and a policeman rode alongside. Taking a white card from his wallet, Gatsby waved it before the policeman's eyes.
Oh, right you are. Do you next time, Mr. Gatsby. Oh, excuse me, sir.
What was that? The picture of Oxford?
I was able to do the commissioner a favor once. He sends me a Christmas card every year.
In a well-fanned 42nd Street cellar, I met Gatsby and his friend for lunch.
Mr. Carraway, this is my friend, Mr. Wolfsheim.
Hello there. This is a nice restaurant here, but I like the one across the street better.
It's too hot over there.
Hot and small, yes, but full of memories.
What place is that?
The old Metropole. I can't forget so long as I live the night they shot Rosie Rosenthal. Rosie had eaten drunk a lot all evening, and when it was almost morning, the waiter came up to him and said somebody wants to speak to him outside. All right, says Rosie, and begins to get up. I pulled him down in his chair and said, let the bastards come in here if they want you, Rosie.
Did he go?
Sure. He went out on the sidewalk and they shot him 3 times and drove away. I understand you're looking for a business connection.
Oh no. This is just a friend. I told you we'd talk about that some other time.
I beg your pardon. I had the wrong man.
Oh, excuse me, gentlemen.
He has to telephone somebody. Fine fellow, isn't he? Handsome and a perfect gentleman. He's an Oxford man.
Have you known Gatsby a long time?
Several years. I made the pleasure of his acquaintance just after the war. I see you're looking at my cuff buttons. Finest specimens of human molars.
Well, that's a Very interesting idea. When Gatsby returned to the table and sat down, Mr. Wolfsheim drank his coffee and got to his feet.
I have enjoyed my lunch, and I'm going to run off from you two young men before I outstay my welcome.
Don't hurry, Maya.
You're very polite, but I belong to another generation. You sit here and discuss your sports and your young ladies.
He's quite a character around New York, a denizen of Broadway.
Who is he? An actor?
No.
A dentist?
Maya Wolfsheim is a gambler. He's the man who fixed the World Series back in 1919.
Fixed the World Series? Why isn't he in jail?
Oh, they can't get him, old sport. He's a smart man.
I caught sight of Tom Buchanan headed in our direction.
Nick, where have you been? Daisy's furious because you haven't called up.
This is Mr. Gatsby, Mr. Buchanan.
How do you do, old sport?
Fine, nice to meet you. How'd you happen to come up this far to eat?
I've been having lunch with Mr. Gatsby. I turned towards Gatsby and he was no longer there. That afternoon, I met Jordan in the tea garden at the Plaza Hotel, and she told me Gatsby's story.
An October day in 1917, I was walking in the neighborhood. The largest of the lawns belonged to Daisy Faye's house. She was 18 and the most popular girl in Louisville. All day long, her telephone rang, and excited young officers demanded the privilege of monopolizing her that night. When I came to her house that morning, she was sitting in her white roadster with a lieutenant I had never seen before. They were so engrossed in each other that she didn't see me at first.
Well, Jordan, are you going to the Red Cross to make bandages?
I am.
Would you tell them I can't come today?
The officer looked at Daisy in a way that every young girl wants to be looked at. His name was Great Gatsby. By the next year, I had a few beaux myself, and I began to play in golf tournaments, so I didn't see Daisy very often. Wild rumors were circulating about her, how her mother had found her packing her bag one night to go to New York to say goodbye to a soldier who was going overseas. She was prevented, but after that, she didn't play around with the soldiers anymore. The following June, she married Tom Buchanan with more pomp and circumstance than Louisville ever knew before. He hired a whole floor at the Sealback Hotel, and the day before the wedding, he gave her a string of pearls valued at $350,000. I was bridesmaid, and half an hour before the bridal dinner, I found her lying on her bed as drunk as a monkey. She had a bottle of Sauterne in one hand and a letter in the other.
Congratulate me. Never had a drink before, but how do I enjoy it?
I was scared. I've never seen her like that before. I asked, what could I do?
Here, dearest, take these pearls downstairs and give them back to whoever they belong to. Tell them all Daisy's changed her mind.
She cried and cried. I rushed out and found her mother's maid, and we got her into a cold bath. She wouldn't let go of the letter and squeezed it up into a wet ball. We put ice on her forehead and hooked her back into her dress, and a half hour later, the pearls were around her neck and the incident was over. Next day, she married Tom Buchanan and started off on a 3-month trip to the South Seas. I saw them when they came back and thought I'd never seen a girl so mad about her husband. If he left the room for a minute, she'd look around uneasily and say,
"Where's Tom gone?"
The next April, Daisy had a little girl, and they came back to Chicago to settle down. They moved with a fast crowd, all then young and rich and wild. Well, about 6 weeks ago, she heard the name Gatsby for the first time in years. It wasn't until then I connected this Gatsby with the officer in her white car.
It was a strange coincidence.
But it wasn't a coincidence at all. Gatsby bought that house so that Daisy would be just across the bay. He wants to know if you'll invite Daisy to your house some afternoon and then let him come over.
Did I have to know all this before he could ask such a little thing?
He thought you might be offended. He wants her to see his house, and your house is right next door.
Oh. Does Daisy want to see Gatsby?
Gatsby doesn't want her to know. You're just supposed to invite her to tea.
When I came home, Gatsby's house was lit from tower to cellar, but there wasn't a sound. I saw Gatsby walking toward me across his lawn. Your place looks like the World's Fair.
Oh, does it?
I talked with Jordan. I'm going to call up Daisy tomorrow and invite her over here for tea.
Oh, that's all right. I don't want to put you to any trouble.
How about the day after tomorrow?
I want to get the grass cut.
I called up Daisy and invited her to come to tea. Daisy, don't bring Tom.
What?
Don't bring Tom.
Who is Tom?
Tune in next Monday for part 2 of The Great Gatsby.